قال المصنف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, وتغيير النية, and changing the intention. That's the sixth one that the author mentions. الشرح فيه مسائل. The explanation is that this has cases. This case of changing the intention has divergent or has sub cases under it. الأولى إذا قطع النية. The first is to interrupt the intention. مثل أن نوى الخروج من الصلاة, like to intend to stop praying. بطلت بلا خلاف. Here your prayer will be invalidated with no difference in opinion. لأن من شرط النية بقاؤها, because one condition of the intention is that it lasts. وقد زالت, and in this case, it went away. وهذا بخلاف ما لو نوى الخروج من الصوم. And this is different from intending to stop fasting. حيث لا يبطل على الأصح. That's not going to invalidate your fast. Fasting and prayer don't have the same judgment in this case. The case of intending to stop. Prayer and fasting don't have the same judgment. If you're in the middle of your prayer and you intended to stop praying, your prayer is invalidated. If you're in the middle of your fast and you just intended to stop fasting without actually committing something that breaks the fast, then your fast will not be invalidated. على الأصح, according to the most accurate saying. Yani, that's a signal to that there's a saying that it will invalidate your fast. The mere intention to stop fasting, there's a saying that it would. Most accurate saying is that it won't. الثانية إذا عزم على قطعها. The second case is to decide to interrupt the intention. مثل أن جزم في الركعة الأولى أن يقطعها في الثانية. Like for a person who's in the first rak'ah to decide to interrupt his prayer in the second rak'ah that's coming. بطلت في الحال. Then the prayer will be immediately invalidated. لقطعه موجب النية. Because of his interrupting the intention. وهو الاستمرار إلى الفراغ. Yani, he can't have that decision. This decision interrupts his intention and therefore invalidates the prayer. The decision to interrupt the prayer corrupts the intention. That decision invalidates the intention. So then your prayer will be invalidated. الثالثة, the third branch is إذا شك هل يقطعها. Is for a person to hesitate about interrupting the intention or not. مثل أن تردد في أنه هل يخرج منها أو يستمر. Like for him to go back and forth. Should I keep praying or should I stop? بطلت. His prayer is invalidated. قال الإمام. The Imam, that's Al-Juwayni. When the Shafi'is say the Imam, that's Al-Juwayni, Imam al-Haramain. He's a mujtahid in the madhab. He said, وَلَيْسَ مِنَ الشَّكِّ عُرُوضُ التَّرَدُّدِ بِالْبَالِ. The mere involuntary thought of invalidating, of stopping the prayer will not be a doubt that makes your prayer invalidated. That's important detail there. You're praying, and then crosses your mind to invalidate your prayer. This does not invalidate your prayer. كما يجري للموسوس, like what happens to a person who's haunted by the whispers. فإنه قد يعرض بالذهن tasawwuru shak. Such a person, it could cross his mind as if he doubted. وَمَا يَتَرَتَّبُ عَلَيْهِ فَهَذَا لَا يَبْطُلُ. So this will not invalidate the prayer. انتهى. End quote. قال المصنف رحمه الله واستدبار القبلة. The seventh invalidator is, according to the way the author worded it, turning one's back to the Qibla. الشرح إذا استدبر القبلة بطلت صلاته. The explanation is that if a person turned his back to the Qibla, his prayer will be invalidated. Yani, we're explaining the words of Abu Shuja. But is every sentence of every scholar the most exact wording that makes you know all the whole case? No. Another reason you need to learn from teachers and not from merely reading books. Abu Shuja here, he said, what's the Dabarul Qibla? Turning the back to the Qibla. So then a person who doesn't have a teacher and he reads in there, he'll say, look, you can face northeast as long as you don't turn your back. That's not the Shafi'i school. Rather, Shafi'i school is if you turn away from the Qibla even a little bit, or even if someone turns you away from the Qibla, this will invalidate your prayer. And let me address for you a misunderstanding that people have, especially when they want to face the wrong way. They want to justify that for themselves. They say, the Hanafi school gives room for error. They might say, you have a 45-degree room of error in the Hanafi school. Let's say even if that were true. But what did the Hanafi say? The Hanafi said, if you turn away from what you believe is the most accurate direction on purpose, your prayer will be invalidated even if you wound up facing the right direction. So when somebody talks about there being a 45-degree room for error, according to the Hanafi school, say to him, so what kind of ijtihad you mean? Do you know within all those 45 degrees, is there not a single point that you're most confident about? Or it's just that wide open for you? Because the Hanafis are saying you have to face what you're most confident about. And you're not allowed to turn away from that on purpose. If you turn away from what you're most confident is the accurate direction, according to the Hanafis, your prayer will be invalidated even if you happen to turn and face the Kaaba correctly, because you turned away from what you think is the right way, the most accurate way, the most likely way. You have to face what you believe is you have to face what you are confident is the most accurate direction. So, ash-sharhu, the explanation, إذا استدبر القبلة بطلت صلاته. If a person turned his back to the Qibla, his prayer will be invalidated. That's true. كما لو أحدث, just like had he broken his wudu, his prayer will be invalidated. إذ المشروط يفوت بفوات شرطه. Because the thing that is requiring a condition is going to be missing if the condition it requires is missing. He said, what about the case where someone comes and turns you slightly towards a different direction and the praying person believes them? This invalidates the prayer. You cannot turn a person off of his qibla. Don't do that, brothers and sisters. Don't say this person is facing the wrong way. We need to go adjust him in the middle of his prayer. Don't do that. Just wait for him to finish and then give him advice. قال المصنف رحمه الله. The author, may Allah have mercy on him, said, وَالْأَكْلُ وَالشُّرُبُ وَالْقَهْقَهَةُ وَالرِّدَّةُ. Eating, drinking, laughing, and apostasy, that makes 11. الشرح من مبطلات الصلاة الأكل. The explanation is that amongst the invalidators of the prayer is eating. إذا كان عامدا, if a person did that intentionally. فإن أكل مقدارا قليلا ناسيا أو جاهلا بالتحريم, if a person ate a small amount, forgetting that he was praying, or ignorant that that's haram, so that makes him like he forgot. Being ignorant that it's haram makes him like someone who forgot. لقرب عهده بالإسلام, because of his being newly acquainted with Islam, ونحوه, and the like. كما مر في شروط الصلاة فلا تبطل كالصوم. Then this will not invalidate the prayer, just like fasting. فإن كثر فالأصح البطلان. But if it were a lot, then what's most accurate is that this invalidates the prayer. وَالشُّرْبُ كَالْأَكْلِ, and drinking is like eating, same judgment. And that includes, eating includes swallowing the mucus that comes down from your head while you're praying. وَأَمَّا الْقَهْقَهَةُ, and as for laughing, وَهُوَ الضَّحِكُ فَإِن تَعَمَّدَ ذَلِكَ وَبَانَ مِنْهُ حَرْفَانِ بَطَلَتْ صَلَاتُهُ. If a person laughed intentionally and in the process of doing so pronounced two valid letters, like he said, ha, ha, so that's two valid letters, then his prayer would be invalidated. فَإِن لَمْ يَبِنْ فَلَا تَبْطُلْ لِأَنَّهُ لَيْسَ بِكَلَامٍ. But if there were not two valid letters that came out of this laughter, then this will not invalidate the prayer because it won't be speech. وَأَمَّا الرِّدَّةُ فَهِيَ قَطْعُ الْإِسْلَامِ. And as for apostasy, that's interrupting one's Islam. إِمَّا بِفِعْلٍ كَأَنْ سَجَدَ فِي الصَّلَاةِ لِصَنَمٍ أَوْ شَمْسٍ. That could be by an action, like if while praying he prostrated to the sun or to an idol. أو قول كأن ثلث, or he said a word of يعني he says, the example is كأن ثلث, like he said something about the Trinity. It's not very clear for me though, but it is clear enough to say he said a word of apostasy while praying. أو اعتقاد, or it might happen by a conviction. كأن فكر في الصلاة في هذا العالم, like while praying he thought about the world. بفتح اللام. فاعتقد قدمه, and he believed that the world has no beginning. وما أشبه ذلك, or anything like that. كفر في الحال قطعا. He definitely committed blasphemy immediately in these cases. وتبطل صلاته. وتبطل صلاته, and his prayer will be invalidated. وكذا لو اعتقد عدم وجوب الصلاة. And likewise, if he believed that the prayer was not obligatory, this will invalidate his prayer because he committed apostasy. Wallahu alam, and Allah knows best. And then here the author, he gives a benefit about apostasy. He says apostasy is 3 divisions. We won't read that. We've learned about that before. Any question, inshallah?
Yes, I have a question, Sheikh.
Yeah.
In reference to eat intentionally, if one ate a small amount in reference to like a new Muslim, could you
Yes.
clarify that?
The person was praying, and the water that he used for wudu came out of his mustache and went in his mouth. So what does he need to do with that? Spit it out. If he swallows it, even though it's a little bit, it will invalidate his prayer.
What about, or like a new Muslim?
It will not invalidate his prayer if he forgot he was praying or he didn't know it was haram because of being a new Muslim.
And is it permissible if one forgot and they ate a small amount? I mean, not permissible, but is the salah valid?
You forgot what?
That they swallowed something and they forgot.
Forgot what?
They were
Forgot he
praying.
was praying.
They didn't think, it just didn't occur to them that they swallowed it, and then it occurred to them, oh, I swallowed and I'm
So that's
praying.
what we're saying. A person forgot he was praying and then he ate a little bit.
Okay, great. And another question is,
Yes.
you interjected in turning one's back to the Qibla, but I'm interested in the interjection when you said you made mention about in every wording from each scholar, and you elaborated on it.
Mm.
And then you told us that that's why it's important to sit and take from the teachers. You said it is every wording from each scholar. Remember that interjection?
Yes.
Could you just say it again?
Yes.
Thank you.
The author Abu Shuja, rahimahullah, he's a very famous scholar. His book is very famous manual in Shafi'i school. What did he say here? He said, "Wastidbarul qibla," as an invalidator of prayer. That literally means turning your back to the qibla. So turning your back, that's very specific. Because if I only turn my shoulder to the qibla, that means I didn't turn my back to it. So is it enough just because we found his words in his very, very famous book that he said, turning your back to the qibla? Are we going to basically take that statement and run with it and say it's right there in Abu Shuja? No, why not? Because even if it is right there in Abu Shuja, not every time, not every single scholar, every single thing he says is always the most accurate way to say it, to say the case. So how are you going to know then? By learning. So if you have someone who learned Shafi'i school properly, and then he was teaching you the text of Abu Shuja, and then he came here, what's the Dabarul Qibla? Turning your back to the Qibla, then he's going to, inshallah, draw your attention to that. The author's expression here is not the most accurate. The author's expression here, if the way he said it is exactly the rule in particular, that would imply that if I merely turn my shoulder to the Qibla, it would not invalidate because I didn't turn my back to it. So then, in other words, we're saying his expression here is not the most accurate one. It's correct. If you turn your back to the Qibla, your prayer will be invalidated. That's correct. But what's understood from that way it's worded is if you turn away from the Qibla without being 180 degrees, so you're turning away from the Qibla is less than 180 degrees, so it's not your back, maybe your shoulder, 90 degrees, for example, that it wouldn't invalidate because it's not turning your back, but it still would also.
Yes, according to the school of Imam Shafi'i.
Yes. Yeah, according to Shafi'i, what Abu Shuja is saying is not a condition. It is correct, but it's not a condition. It could be less than turning your back. It's just enough to turn away from the Qibla a little bit. He said, is it because of choosing of the words, the question's not very clear for me. Yani, Abu Shuja could have, for example, been saying, he could have been making his text quickly so that sometimes he said some things and they're just a little bit loose. That's just an example. Or maybe he wasn't going quickly, but he just thought that it's sufficient to say it this way. But yeah, we are humans, so we're bound to make a mistake. We're bound to not be always accurate, most accurate. But that's why it's important to have the type of scholar who is a muhaqqiq. That means he's meticulous. That means he always wants to be so accurate. He's trying all the time, all the words he says, he wants them to only be as accurate as possible. Like Sheikh Abdullah, rahimahullah ta'ala. He's a muhaqqiq.